Welcome to the After Work Hangout, the podcast where you'll hear why and how everyday people shifted their careers to meet their personal needs. I'm your host, Cristel Lee. In Season 1, we explored topics related to work and money. And now in Season 2, new guests join me to chat about work and health. From practical tips to heartfelt stories, we hope you'll get inspired and make the moves that are right for you. Welcome, Cristel. Today we have two Cristels on the After Work Hangout. We have Cristel Moubarak here, and I'm so happy to welcome you to this podcast to chat about work and health. So welcome, Cristel.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
So for everyone, this is Cristel Moubarak, who is a non-diet and weight-inclusive dietitian. I've known you for over 10 years now. I feel like we've both kind of been on our entrepreneurial journeys side by side, and I've really watched you. Well, first of all, you put out really great content on social media, and I've watched that evolve over the years, and more recently, there's so much joy just bursting from your Instagram feed, and I want to hear all about your journey today. So would you be willing to share how you became a non-diet, weight-inclusive dietitian?
Yeah, absolutely. My journey, as you can imagine, over the past 10 years has evolved in so many ways. When we met, it was around the time that I was focused more on cooking classes and cooking class for kids and families. And I realized through the program that I was going through about entrepreneurship, they asked me, what is your big why behind your work? And I remember at that time just asking that question over and over and over again. And eventually it came to the place where I realized that I never wanted another person to hide in a pantry and feel guilt and shame and in judgment around eating and needing to hide those wrappers or the food and feel like they needed to shame themselves in the mirror in order to motivate themselves, quote unquote, to be a better version of themselves. So that was a really big aha moment for me that made me realize that it's an area in my life that needed healing as well from my childhood and years, teenage years, young adult years, etc. So I went through my own journey of healing and recovery. And that led me to working in this area of non-diet and weight inclusive practice that provided me a lot of healing, but it also that lived experience that I've went through helps me really connect with my clients on a different level. It brings a level of empathy and compassion that is lived through, that has been beaten through and been in the bottom of the mountain and then on the tops and then back through the bottom and the tops again in a different way. And just kind of helping understanding the ebbs and flows from an experience point of view, experiential point of view, helps you really connect with people and help them through their recovery in a different light that is not just found in books and in class. So that was really unique.
I feel like as you're describing it, this work has so much personal meaning to you. And for you, like work is purposeful and extra fulfilling because you relate to your clients and the journeys they're going on and the journey you've been on. So for just if folks are not very familiar with these phrases, how would you describe non-diet and weight-inclusive dietitian work?
Yeah, practice, absolutely. So non-diet practice is basically when there is no specific restrictive plan around food or eating. And it's inspired by the intuitive eating principles. And in general, non-diet is a non-specific term in a way, like it's general. Intuitive eating is a specific, like there's 10 principles. I do honor a lot of those principles in my practice, most of them actually. The only reason why I started calling myself more non-diet than a specific title is because it's also so different for folks that are neurodivergent or have gone through various traumas and have gone through a lot of struggles that actually don't allow them to be in tune with their body the same way that is described in an intuitive eating perspective. Doesn't make it null. It just makes it that it needs to be adjusted for a lot of people. So non-diet is more, it's less particular in a way that allows me to support people without them thinking that there's a
Mm-hmm.
prescriptive way of living.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of being with their food and their world. So I help people make changes towards bringing in more joy, more nourishment, and more satisfaction and satiety into their lives without that shame, guilt, or judgment in their choices
Mm-hmm.
and in the way that they are
Yeah.
nourishing themselves. So that's the non-diet umbrella that I operate
Yeah,
from.
and you know, at the end of the day, like food fuels us to live, to work, to play, and our cells, like every molecule comes from the food we eat. So it's such an important
Yeah,
part of what
it
contributes to our
is.
well-being. So, yeah, I'd love to maybe hear like even if we go back to young Cristel, like how did you get into this field? Was it something that you've always been interested in when it comes to food? Yeah, I'd love to hear that
Hmm.
journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Not when I was a youngster, because what's funny is the way that I got into dietetics specifically was because I made a joke to my mom about, I've been on enough diets. I should just be a dietitian. And I've just know the job, which is really funny because being a dietitian is a lot more
Yeah.
involved and a lot more regulated, and there's a lot of areas of practice. It's a lot more than
Mm-hmm.
diets and weight loss. Yeah, so specifically for the way inclusive practice, in my definition, is more about how are you going to treat your body with respect and trust and care and be able to come from a place of wanting to care for your body rather than from a place of shaming it into submission or trying to shrink it as much as possible just to appear a certain way, because we know that just the look of your body is not a business card and the look of your body is not the definition of health. And so we're looking at a more holistic, full picture idea about your health. And so, in my view, if you are only looking at the physical health of somebody, you're actually missing the picture. The World Health Organization defines it as more of the holistic or the wholesome connection between physical, mental, and social well being. And in my world, I also include spiritual well being. And if you don't have good mental health, emotional health, social
Mm-hmm.
health, spiritual health, but you're only focusing on your physical health in this equation, then it's not considered
Mm-hmm.
healthy. And so I bring it more to the focus of that big picture as to how can we actually honor our health from
Mm-hmm.
honoring all areas in our life. So that's what inclusive practice is.
I love hearing that. And I actually have a background in public health, so the social determinants of health and even access to healthy food and all of that is a big part of my
Hmm.
academic journey.
Oh, I love that you know that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And yeah, so personally like I love growing food in my garden and I'm so lucky to have the space to do that and just supporting local food security and yeah, all of that I can definitely nerd out on. But even as I listen to you talk about this, I also think about how as a career coach, like I really tell people, I also take a really holistic look at, what's going on in your life, right? Finding that job that fulfills you isn't always just about chasing a title or salary. It's like, what else do you care about and what's meaningful to you? And what else fills you up? And you mentioned, you know, spirituality could be one thing that is very important to you. For others, like maybe it's
Hmm.
family or like hobbies and passions and like causes they really care about and how to like work fit with all those other pieces of your life. And I think in a very similar way, like you're describing food is similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find like it's such a big topic. Like I can dive into so many pieces of minutia in all of these areas. But what I did learn over the years is as much as my work has been so connected to my personal identity and who I am as a person, I have realized that work is not my identity and it is not my worth and it is not my value. And my body and how it looks is not my identity. It is not my worth and it is not my value. what I have been able to do over the past few years, and that's where the focus on that mental health piece and relational piece, social piece, spiritual piece, emotional piece, all of those came together, culminating around joy and bringing it to the center of joy in my life. And the more I realized that the times in my life where I felt this sense of burnout and overwhelm and disconnection and emptiness and darkness has always been driven by the time where I veered off away from what brought me joy,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the specific people or connections, seeing people more often, or maybe having an organizational project or doing some like a hobby that I usually enjoy, or having like a spontaneous hangout with a friend, or making meals for fun and cooking for other people and just doing some experiments with my
Yeah.
kids and going on dates with my husband or whatever it is. There's all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
pieces that are connected, and focusing my whole life around what my body is like, or talking about my body or my food. I love food, so that is a huge sense of joy, but it's not the prescriptive
Mm-hmm.
kind of love for it. And so it's the type of nourishing myself
Mm-hmm.
and my life. And what does that look like? And if I find that joy is no longer there, then I know I'm on the wrong path. So that's been a really important guiding star for
Mm-hmm.
me, knowing that whether I am in the direction that I'm meant to have as my purpose in this world, what I was brought to
Mm-hmm.
earth for, or not. And that's just been like my guiding star.
Oh, I love hearing you found that guiding star, and you're helping others to find it too. And I also feel like we have to learn to recognize the signs when we are not connected to
Hmm.
joy, as well as when you are connected to joy, right? So you can
Hmm.
lean deeper into it, that you can recognize some of the things. Maybe it's not what society typically suggests as the thing for you or status or whatnot, right? But like, as
Hmm.
we have to learn how to read our own cues. So for you, may I ask, like, do you look back at times when you were burning out? Like, how did you like realize it? Did you just one day like looked around and was like, this is not where I want to be? Or like, what was it like for you? What
Yeah.
was that journey to notice
Oh,
it and then to like start shifting it?
yeah. I mean, can you be an expert in burnout? Because I might be that. Just from
I
experience.
think, one thing that I know about you is you're so passionate. You always put 110% into everything you do. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see why in some ways you found yourself there. But
Yeah.
yeah, how did you kind of figure it out?
Yeah. You know what? I have really, really clear moments in my life. They're very vivid of times where I had the worst burnout. And a lot of times it was fueled by people pleasing. It was fueled by doing things for other people that if there was nothing to come from that, I wouldn't have done. So, for example, if I was to keep saying yes for projects because I wanted to quote unquote prove myself, I always went down a rabbit hole and like a slide that took me straight to a dark space in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a highway to, burnout and to being very far away from joy. I'm not gonna lie, it was not just burnout. It was like pretty bad anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
depression. And it was always fueled by just doing the things that I thought I wanted people to think of me, or for people like to make other people think positive things of me, or to make them happy with having something less on their list. Does that mean that I no longer want to do things for other people? Absolutely not. But what it does mean is having boundaries that protect myself and my family and my values, and understanding what my values are. And if the things that are being offered to me or asked of me do not align with my values, then I know that that's an easy no. Recently, I heard the statement that said, for every yes that you give, you're going to get a million no's that you're going to have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So even though no's might be hard to say or to take a stance on that and to actually decline opportunities, if you say yes to everything, you're not going to be able to have space to actually take care of yourself and your family and your well-being, etc. So what are your values? What are you working for? What's the purpose of work? I realized over time that I'm not a traditional person that needed to make the millions in order to feel proud of myself, because I would keep imagining myself getting to that point and I would be like, but I actually don't want to do those things to get there.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't want to spend all of my time doing this. I do not want to do these. Like, if I don't want to do those behaviors and have that life, then what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And so that kind of changed everything for me, because then I was able to put my values on my wall, which are right in front of me. And I'm able to remind myself daily as to what do I value, what do I care for, and what am I living
Mm-hmm.
for? And basically understanding what my mission here is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that helped me have a clearer vision and clearer direction, and just made me feel more at peace.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's less things that can steal that peace, you know?
Yeah. Oh, you said so many great things. And I'm guessing like perhaps, your wall of values, joy, peace, all these things that you just said.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What else is on there?
There's so many. There's faith, joy, serving, community, family, encouragement, and feel good feels,
Ooh, I like that one.
and also mental health. So like that's important to me. So I find like those are the values in my life that I want to revolve around. And if pursuing certain things for work do not allow me to have that other balance of taking
Hmm.
care of myself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually,
Yeah.
then it's not something
Yeah.
that's going to be aligned.
And I actually just recently in my own life, I went through this experience where I had to say no to something that thought was really meaningful and important, and I would love to do it. But when I took a holistic view at my life, really, I knew for my own health and well-being, I did need to say no to something. So for me, I
Hmm.
helped myself by reframing it as no for now.
For
Because
now. Yeah.
I do still feel it's important and meaningful and all those things, but just at this
Yeah.
point in my life, not right now.
I don't have to do everything at the same time.
Hmm.
And that's what another thing I've been saying to myself. It's like I can do everything, just not at the same time.
Yes, I have that written out on this like decorated board somewhere in my room.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but I love it.
Hmm.
You know, I wish I could give credit to whoever said it, because it's just seared in my
Yeah.
brain. In the past 2 years, it's just been a journey for sure of transformation that has led me here.
Hmm.
So it's awesome.
So now that you're at this point, when you look ahead, what are the things you want to say yes to?
That's a very good question. You know what? If I was to think personally, what I am working on, I'm working on a lot of like various personal and professional kind of goals. A lot of them are related to my faith, but also some of them are related to building up my community in a different way and being able to serve people in a different lens and be able to inspire joy. I don't know what that's exactly going to look like, but right now I'm honestly just focusing on how do I love people and how do I make people feel more connected to themselves and to each
Hmm.
other. That's my current space. That's where I'm, and that's right now in my work. Even if I am doing this in private practice, I'm focusing on how can I connect my clients together in a little community group. If I'm thinking about this in my personal life, then I think about my friends and family and be like, who would benefit from getting to know each other and bring people together, or opening up our home and
Hmm.
hosting. And recently recognized that hosting is my hobby. I love to host, and it just brings me joy. And I was like, you know what? Even if that, this is another like aspect where I was comparing. I was like, am I hosting because I want people to think something of me, or am I hosting because I love the outcome of people connecting and feeling welcome in my home and loved and cared for and and a sense of generosity? And I'm like, yes, that, all of that, and I enjoy it, and I don't want to just only go out
Hmm.
of the house for places. I love opening our home. So I realized I'm like, oh, that is not burning me out. That's actually filling me up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of comparing those if it was gonna feel like I'm burning myself
Yeah.
to the ground every time, then that's not aligned. So that's kind of like been my litmus test of, is this filling my cup? Is this doing what it's supposed
Yeah.
to do if I got nothing else from it?
I hear, you also have awareness of your historical pattern. So you're able to,
Yes.
ask that question. So again, back to like knowing yourself and your tendencies
Yeah.
to be able to check in. And I think there's also perhaps like a really just realistic, practical side. You mentioned you have kids. Like you can't really plan that
Mhm.
far ahead, right? Like your kids are still young, when their schedules are going to
Yeah.
change as they grow older and who knows what. And so your work also
Yeah.
would need to take that into consideration.
To share. Yeah, like I don't do any work between 5 and 7 p.m. That's another boundary that I've set because it's important to me. I don't do work on more than one Saturday a month. So I also block that off. It's very important for me to have those types of boundaries that I learned over time that if I was to do more, it would cause more harm. So if it causes more harm, is that going to do me or my family any good? And the answer is no. And just because it is more convenient for me to open that time and be able to take in more clients or do more events or do different work. Like I love doing cooking classes, but they need to be on a weekend or on an evening. And I can't do that. I can't do that more
Hmm.
often. And so as much as I love it, it's a not now situation, just like what we talked about. So it's more so like I can do everything. I can do cooking classes, just not
Hmm.
every week or every month. It's something that I can do sporadically and I can just bring the joy of cooking in my life in a different way.
Hmm.
And so it's just kind of like sharing maybe then cooking on Instagram where I can record that when my kids are at daycare and I can share it on a different time and things like that, where I can do things on my own time, but also be able to share the gifts that I have in me and within me and my skills and talents to be able to share that with the world and with people and with my clients and
Yeah.
be able to bring that into fruition.
I love hearing how intentional you are. So I get a sense, you live a very high energy packed life. Like your schedule, I think, is filled
Yeah.
to the brim. So how do you stay nourished even for yourself and your family? Do you have any tips for folks?
Mhm.
It's just reality. So many of us are living that like hustle culture. I think a lot of us are trying to break out of it, but in the meantime, we're still living in it. So, do you have any tips when it
Yeah.
comes to just how to fuel ourselves in a way that
Mhm.
joyful and effective?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question, and it is something I'm talking about with my clients all the time. It looks different for every single person, but what I do say all the time to my clients is even if you figured something out that's going to work for you right now, it does not mean that it's going to work for you next year or in a few months or even next week. So just because there's one approach that works for you for a season in your life, it is not the one and only approach that's going to work for you forever. So what I do with my clients is I actually sit with them and I go through various approaches to meal planning and meal prep and ask them what they want to do. So whether it's something that they are relying more on their pantry and freezer, whether they are relying more on services, whether they are learning different types of recipes and which equipment are you going to use and how much time are you going to have active versus passive. And when you think of cooking time, are you thinking of just the time that you're using for prep, that active time, or are you thinking from start to finish, including cleanup? And so everybody approaches this differently. And with how expensive things have been
Yeah.
nowadays, like we know that just ordering in every day is probably not in the cards for people, even if they want to not cook. So it's just kind of an area of life where we're looking at how can we nourish ourselves in a way that supports our financial well-being, but also supports us physically, mentally, and emotionally, and be able to work with our schedule and with our capacity, with our equipment, and be able to leverage all of those things all at once. My favorite thing that I get to do is to think about how to leverage my equipment
Yeah.
that I have, like an instant pot, my oven, and my air fryer, and be able to maximize my freezer. I'm not gonna lie, it's a huge privilege
Yeah.
because I have a stand-up freezer that is packed. And I have two fridges with
Wow.
two other freezers that I fill up. So I do use my freezers a lot, whether it's freezing beans or chopped veggies or meats. And whenever I get meats, I already chop them up or slice them or portion them per meal. I have a variety of things that I can pull different meals from and be able to plan accordingly. So that is usually my signature approach
Mm,
in my practice. And I teach that to my clients if they have the capacity, space, and the privilege to be
mhm.
able to have food that they're not consuming immediately, because it is a privilege, right? To be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
have a freezer and to actually have food that is in your freezer. It's a privilege.
Absolutely. To be able to buy in bulk, like to have a disposable income to buy large quantities, to be able to meal prep in that
Hmm.
way, right? Yeah, so many
Yeah,
factors.
or buying, even if you find something on sale that you're buying on sale, if you don't have the space to freeze it, then it is a waste. So there's no point of,
Hmm.
yeah, so there's various approaches that I have that I pull from with my clients depending on where they're at in life, what do they need, and what is their financial capacity, but also their what's available in their home.
Hmm. Yeah, so many
So
considerations that
many. It's not
you just
easy.
brought up. Yeah, and like you said, it changes. So I think it's if you are equipped with the knowledge of different approaches, then you can then be able to make those
Hmm.
choices. I many years ago, I used to go to a community potluck where they teach you food skills, and when inflation started to just like go up and up and up, I just felt so grateful to actually have the food skills to be able to work with a variety of ingredients.
Hmm.
Like, I knew how to work with dried beans, or I knew how to work with just cheaper
Yes.
options. And I realized, wow, like, not everyone has that.
Yeah, absolutely. When I share that I cook my beans from scratch, a lot of people are like, wow, look at you being fancy. And I'm like, honestly, realistically, there's two reasons. I have an instant pot. It cooks them pretty fast. And two, I have more freezer space than pantry space. Historically, when I
Uh,
had more pantry space, I bought more cans. And so it's the same as
mhm,
like, well, eat more beans, enjoy more beans. There's so much value to them and do what you can. But when it comes to the food skills, I find that we often underestimate how important food skills are. And I think they are going to be severely lacking if kids don't get taught food skills. And the more there's more convenient stuff that is being shared out of necessity, I'm not commenting on that piece. It's more about actually actively engaging kids in food skill or food literacy and teaching them about food, not nutrition, because when children are little, they are not making the choices around food. They are going to learn, for example, oh, this is how this texture feels, or this flavor, or the flavor profile, or the various foods and how they kind of come together and the different colors. And they may
mhm,
feel like if they're hungry and they're constantly reaching for specific snacks, instead of saying, that's not good for you, you shouldn't be eating that, you can say, hey, you know what? It sounds like your body is really needing something that will make it feel strong and give you extra energy. So let's look for some snacks that will make you feel a little bit more full. Like teaching them those kinds of
mm,
gentle ways of approaching nutrition. I always call it gentle nutrition. It does come from intuitive eating. I do believe that that is really key for us to have a healthy and balanced relationship with food that is more effective, efficient, and sustainable in the long term. Because if we only focus on here's the micronutrients and the macronutrients and the calories, etc., to a child, that
mhm,
means nothing. And they might become
mhm.
obsessive about these things that are actually not their job. They're not the ones shopping, they're not the ones cooking, and they're not the ones that are responsible for making these educational choices or educated decisions in the grocery store. So I would
Mhm.
say that food literacy is so
Yeah.
key, but we do have to start with the kids and not forget about them.
Yeah, and back to joy, right? How to make it a joyful
Hmm.
experience to develop these food skills. And if you are able to do it together and turn it into like
Yes.
a fun activity, oh, so
Yes,
fun,
I
so great.
actually have a few clients that have helped them as a family, and I've worked with the parents to help their kids, or I've done cooking classes in their homes where I would help them engage their child with food prep, with cooking, and make it
Mm,
fun. And it especially gets difficult when there's consistent specific behaviors that are unintentionally geared towards wanting to feed your child, but they result more in picky eating. And how do we
mm,
actually adjust our approach to food in our home and approach to cooking to be able to make it a non-judgmental and less stressful time for everybody? So how can we make
yeah.
mealtime more joyful, but also a place of connection? Connection with each other, but
Mm-hmm.
connection for the food and how delicious it is. My kids are so funny
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to food. They do a happy dance. My little one, who's 2 years old, will stand on the chair and dance, make the shimmy
Ah,
on the
cute.
chair, and we'll call it a happy dance. And my other 4-year-old boy, he loves food just like I do. And it is so cute. He'll eat something, he'll be like, "Oh,
Ah.
Ma, that was delicious." And just seeing a 4-year-old, enjoy food to that degree, it just brings me so much joy to see him experiencing that with
Mhm.
food and not having stress around food. So that's just like really
Yeah.
beautiful to see.
Yeah, and as a result, like he has this ball of energy inside him to like go out and play and learn and
Mhm.
do all the things, like enjoy life's adventures.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
always teach respect around food too. And that's like really
Mhm.
key to learn how to respect people and respect the food. And food can be a conduit for so many lessons. It could be if we're baking together, we
Mhm.
can talk about math and calculating things. And if we're trying to like cut something, we can talk about shapes. And if we're playing a little like learning about letters, we'll think about meals that start with that letter or different foods, and then we'll go to the store and buy those foods and actually eat them because they learn a different letter in
Mm.
school every week. And so we always come up with new foods to try together. So food is a really beautiful like ground for
That's really
teaching
cool.
and learning. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Do you have any stories of like working with adults? Because for me, again, we just live in the social media age. My algorithms are pushing so much food content
Yes.
to me.
I can.
But like hacks
Yeah.
and more actually what I have been enjoying lately is it's pushing me a lot of like cultural foods from my childhood, like nostalgia foods or maybe things that my parents
I
would have
love
made, but
that.
how to make it like easier with more modern equipment. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any tips for like say adults who are like now on their journey and they do want to learn more? Like I know it's not one size fits
Mhm.
all, but maybe you can offer some ideas of how to start, where to go.
Yeah. Are you asking about food skills, like developing food skills right now?
Yeah, I'd say like food skills, how to get like excited about food and food skills.
Yeah, I mean, definitely find people on Instagram that, or like social media in general, that light you up, that you're like, want to follow them and learn from them. But here's my challenge for you. Don't just follow people because they are fun and they have these complicated videos. Follow people that actually share meals and tips that you want to apply. I do have a lot of various accounts that I've shared with my clients, and I'm happy to share them with you in the show notes, perhaps. There's a few accounts.
Yeah,
There's one
yeah.
of them, for example, she shares like different meals that she's always recording, and she shares like a meal plan for the week. And other ones, they would actually come up with a meal plan that uses similar ingredients so that you have less waste. And there's so many various approaches. And I feel like you
Mm-hmm.
can learn a lot from specific accounts. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
veer away from accounts that you watch. I'm going to call it food porn because that's what we've called it in the past. But it's just the accounts that you're just watching just to like love on that food, but not actually learn
Yeah.
much that you're going to do in your own home. Honestly, when I used to develop recipes, I used to think about how to make this extra special and make it really cool and impressive. And
Uh
later, now I'm like, let me teach you how to boil eggs in an air fryer because nobody wants to forget that boiling water forever. And because they got distracted with their ADHD stuff brain, you know what I mean? So it's just more about thinking practically and,
yeah.
easier, simpler. And so I do share a lot of
Yeah.
those kinds of tips and theories on my Instagram as well, so you can follow me for that as well. I love making food approachable and practical and to feel good. I think it's important for that.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a day and age where there's a lot of information, a lot of content we can consume. I think also it's just noticing like which ones bring joy and really, I'm going to actually use this analogy, which is I garden. And when people do garden planning at the beginning of the season, they always say, plant the foods you'll actually eat. Because, you know, if you're planting a lot of lettuce, but you don't like lettuce, then that's just kind of
Yes.
wasted space in your garden plot.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's similar for meal planning, where, learn the things that you'll want to make, buy the ingredients that you'll want to prepare, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where I start with my clients because first we always talk about consistency. Are you eating regularly in the day so that you're not super starving at the end of the day? And what would it take to do that? So consistency first, we talk about balance next, and then we talk about variety and then we talk about nutrient density. So we always take it from like one step to the other. And if somebody is not eating much in their day, making the meal perfect does nothing for you. And so we really want to actually encourage more of like a wholesome approach to nourishment that actually suits you and supports you. So if we were to think of actually eating more regularly, but you didn't have any fruits or vegetables, that's the next step. Let's add that to your life. And if you don't like kale, that's fine. What are some other ways that we can
Mm-hmm.
add greens or integrate things? One thing, little story around that, I used to feel like I had to eat spinach salads. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know, but somehow I felt like I had to eat a spinach salad. And I used to hate them. And I would sit there and just like eating the sad spinach salad. And I was like, I really don't
Oh.
like this, but I'm just gonna eat it because I have to, quote unquote. And I remember the last time I did that. We had made this meal and I had spinach, I had made the salad, and I remember sitting at my dining table just procrastinating, getting up. And I ate all the way around it. I picked a few vegetables from the salad, but I didn't want to eat the spinach. And I'm just like sitting there and sitting in there and sitting there. And eventually my husband asked me, he's like, "Are you done?" And I was like, I guess. And then he was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I don't want to eat the spinach salad." He was like, "Then don't eat it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna eat it." And that was actually the last time I made a spinach salad. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
but
yeah.
I do buy spinach. We make spinach muffins because my kids love these muffins that taste like banana bread, but they have spinach in them. I like cooked spinach, so I make
What?
curries. I put it into different soups and stews, and we'll put it into smoothies. So it's not that it's something that has to be
Mhm,
eliminated. It's just, does that belong in your life and how? It can look different for everybody. So
mhm,
that's where the balance is like. And then we talk about variety because if you eat quote unquote rice, chicken, and broccoli every single day, you're also missing a lot of nutrients. But so how can we add that variety and what does that look like for you? And then the nutrient density is
mhm,
where we might make adjustments also that are for specific medical nutrition therapy, or if you have different things that you care about for preventative reasons, how do we do that? You do have to take it step by step. So I want to encourage everybody that's listening to not feel like you have to do everything at once. Sometimes it's as small as just not eating that spinach salad and looking at different ways to get your veggies or fruits in ways
mhm.
that bring you joy and you're not eating yourself short.
Yeah, it's really giving yourself permission
Mhm.
to honor your body knows. It's like, I don't want that spinach salad. So honoring that. Mhm,
Absolutely. It's so important to honor your body and know what's really going on and how to support yourself to move forward and keeping your values and your eyes on that, on the goal of
mhm,
actually recovering your relationship with food and body and nourishment
mhm.
or nutrition and health.
And Crystal, like coming back to the theme around work, I feel like you've been on this journey and now you're at a point where you're really honoring what you want in your practice and how you serve others, and it wasn't always easy, like you
Mhm.
said. There have been really challenging moments. What advice or encouragement would you give for others who maybe are in that more challenging space right now where they're like, my work feels like my spinach salad. I really don't want it anymore, but it's still sitting in front of me. Like, what advice would you have for those folks?
You know what? This is so great. I don't know. This is the first thing I'm going to say this analogy, and it's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know if it's going to answer to everybody's problem. I feel like there's a lot of things that we need to work through before we let go. There's a lot of reasons why somebody might be in that scenario. It could be financial, it could be location, it could be family needs, it could be a million reasons why somebody's in a specific situation. But, and it's a big but, if you are in
Yeah.
a situation because you feel like you have already invested a lot in this and you really should see it to the end, quote unquote, I believe that it is really important to look at where you're at. And if you were to think about it from this analogy, think about it like you're in a broken boat, and this broken boat, this has so much water that's coming in because it has so many holes in it. And you keep using a little bucket to try and empty that water out of the boat, you're never going to have a dry boat. So if you continue to stay in this boat and it continues to deteriorate and to continue to break through, the only thing that's going to end up happening is you falling through the boat, and that's not going to serve you well. So if you feel like you need to stay there to see it through, this boat is never going to be whole again. And so that's a really important analogy that reminded me of whether I was in a broken boat or not, and to look
Mm,
for the, other ships or other boats nearby that maybe people are going to actually have a serving heart and they want to support you and help you and lift you up. And those are the people that are going to actually
mhm,
carry you through to where you're gonna then, be able to get a change of
mhm.
clothes and get dry and get food and be nourished so that you can then support other people and do the right things that you need to
Yeah.
do to take care of others and of yourself again. And so the way that it felt when I was in that space was that I stayed in that boat. I fell through that boat. I went really deep into depths of the water below, and it just was
Mhm.
there for a long time. And when I came up, it was super foggy and I still couldn't see through. And I couldn't see anything or hear anything. And I was just really lost and overwhelmed. And I felt like I was alone for a long time.
Mhm.
And I felt like I failed. And I felt like I was hopeless. I felt like I meant nothing. I felt like I lost everything that I worked for. I felt like I had zero skills. I felt like, yeah, I just really fell deep. I'm not gonna lie. And
Mhm.
it took me 2, 3 years to actually, at every stage of those like downs, I kind of, had a lot of downs with their own ebbs and flows. But and that's in the past 3 years. And this year, it's finally kind of starting to go back up onto a different mountain, so to say.
Mhm.
And it's just kind of teaching me to look back and to appreciate what those 3 years have done for me. And the things,
Mhm.
everything that I've shared so far have all come from all of these trials that I've had in the past 3 years and what I've learned from them. And they all happen slowly. And so sometimes you might listen to a podcast or a conversation or someone that you may look up to and you think to yourself, wow, I love the joy that this person brings. And I just wish I could be like them. It seems like all their life is just roses and rainbows and is so happy. But then you don't know that they actually spent 3 years in the depths of that water. So I would say focus on yourself first. Don't compare yourself to others and just look for who can
Yeah.
actually lift you up because we all need people that can lift us up.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that metaphor and just sharing with such vulnerability about your own experience. And it did take a while, and it's okay if it needs to be a slower process. That's okay. Go at your own pace. And you can start waving for help sooner, right? If you notice
Yeah.
that boat is starting to leak, like start looking around, start like seeing what's out there, wave for help. You're not alone. Like allow yourself to ask for help, give yourself permission to get off that sinking boat
Mhm,
sooner rather than
mhm,
later. But if you do go down that, just be like compassionate about yourself and honor the reasons why you did choose to stay.
Hmm.
Reasons are valid as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can really see working with you would be just so full of compassion and this caring, gentle support that you bring to
Oh,
this conversation, and I imagine all the work you do.
thank you. Yes, thank you. My clients always say, I love how non-judgmental you are and how much joy you bring and passion to the work that you do. And I always think to myself, like, wonder why is not like that experience with all healthcare professionals around not being judgmental. Like, I wish that wasn't special about me. I mean, that is
Yeah,
what my clients share, but I just wish it wasn't the case. But if you wanted somebody that could bring that to you, I would love to help you in that area of your life. If that's something
yeah.
that you need support in, you can contact me and message me, and I would love to support you.
Yeah, and all the information will be in the show notes as well. I usually like to ask my guests, how do you recharge outside of work? And I feel like you already shared a lot of things. So I want to ask this question still and ask, is there anything that you haven't shared that you want to
Okay.
let
Yes.
folks know that really like helps?
Okay. There's a few things. I love playing card games on my phone. There's a
Uh,
few card games I love. Recently, I've been playing like word association games. Those have been really fun. I also really love to listen to funny podcasts, as I tend to do that when I am cleaning or doing anything in the house that or something tedious. I'm like, I need something funny. And that honestly always fills me up. I also really love special like teas, like different teas that I get to try. So I end up like binge ordering on David's tea every once in a while for like $70+ just to try various teas.
uh,
And that brings me joy too when I get to make them. And I also really love different candles and scents, and that makes me happy. I also love to sit with my friends who love crafts, and sometimes we'll do like an impromptu coloring session. So we'll just like
mm,
do that after bedtime, after the kids go to bed. And I used to love embroidery, and I just bought a new set to do embroidery, and I'm excited to do that too. So there's a lot of things
ooh,
other than cooking and food and people and hosting
yeah,
that I do to take care of
yeah.
myself.
Lots of like
Hmm.
creativity, and I see you stimulating all your
Yeah,
senses,
yeah. And then
like with the smells and the sounds. Yeah.
sometimes I like to do my nails
Ah.
and to do flower arrangements. I like to buy various flowers and put them together in bouquets. So yeah, you're right. A lot of creativity.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Love that. All right. I want to say again, thank you so much for joining me and bringing so much joy to this
Um,
podcast. It's always so fun to chat.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I'll be back anytime you want me to.
Amazing.
Thank
Okay, take
you. Bye
care.
bye.
Thanks for listening to the After Work Hangout. If you enjoy honest conversations about career decisions and life choices, remember to subscribe to the After Work Hangout so you'll know when our next episode drops. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating while you're at it. You can find a summary of this episode along with more information about our guests and resources that were mentioned at relocal.ca. That's RELOCAL.ca. If you take a look around the website, you'll also find blog posts, downloads, and community offerings to support your career development. I'm your host, Cristel Lee, and I'm always interested in hearing what topics you'd like to learn about. You can connect with me on Instagram at relocal.ca, or you can email me at cristel@relocal.ca. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to all the guests and supporters who make this podcast possible. This includes my podcast manager, Lindsay Curtis, and graphic designer, Alex Dewar, who created the podcast art. Thanks again for listening and sticking around. I hope you're more inspired and ready to make the moves that are right for you. See you at the next Hangout.